culture.
What's poppin', everybody? It's your boy RB here, and welcome back to another edition of Rave Culture Cultura Rave podcast. This is 005, and this one is gonna be hella lit for me. This one's a really special one for sure, because today's guest is one of the hottest commodities in the world of PR in electronic music, being exponential in the growth and success of musical projects from artists such as Artbed and The Mechanism, as well as some of the industry's hottest labels such as Cutting Edge from the Martinez Brothers, KNTK from Charles DeWitt, and Moscow from Archie Hamilton. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have Mr. BBC's Essential Mix Man. We have someone who I like to call a big bro in this industry, in life, and someone who taught me a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Jukebox's PR head of artists and label, Pete Downs. What's up, Pete? Nice to have you here, bro.
Cheers, mate. That's a very, very, very nice introduction. Happy to be invited to come on and share a little bit of knowledge, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have a nice talk. And yeah, Pete. So why don't we start? Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? Who you are and what is it that you do in this crazy world of electronic music?
Of course. So I'm Pete Downs. I'm the head of the artist and record label PR and management at Jukebox PR, which is a London-based company. So as Lorenzo just said, I look after the likes of Charlotte DeWitt, Artbat, Ray Mono, across various genres, techno, minimal, house, and then also labels like Cutting Heads, Context, Filth and Acid. So again, across the range, like can be organic house, it can be techno, it can be minimal, it can be house, it can be tech house. So yeah, really across the spectrum. So and then of course met Lorenzo maybe just over a year and a half ago, and he came and worked with us for, I don't know, 3 months just before pandemic, and obviously everything went tits up. But so we met then, and I kind of showed him the ropes a little bit at the start.
Yeah, man, it was definitely hella lit when I was in Jukebox. Obviously, like extra fucking shy at the moment, like when I arrived, because like for me, I remember it was applying for jobs, and obviously we'll talk about it in a minute, but you were the first intern at Jukebox, and I remember that when applying, you know, you go to doorsopen.co, you send a gazillion emails to have Alex Jukes, shout out Alex for answering, and some other replies. And yeah, like I got a job. I was thrilled. I didn't know if PR was what I wanted to do, to be honest, but I didn't end up enjoying it. And I think that like I learned a lot in the role of PR, if you know what I mean. I think it's something that people
we were in
might
that really crazy office as well, that 6th floor office, which was like some ricketiest of stairs, like everyone was on a different floor. It was so weird, but it was 5 minutes from Fabric, so
exactly
it had benefits and it had its
dude, it was 5 minutes from Fabric, and like crazy enough, like, you know, Jukebox moved the location. Dude, I've moved like 10 minutes from the office, from the old one. But the new one is better.
And then we moved to Wapping. So we weren't trying to get away from you, mate. Trust me. It was just Alex just really likes the river.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely hella nice. So Pete, let's start a little bit when you started. I remember talking to Alex, and he telling me this crazy story about you and how it was that you were the first intern in Jukebox, and after being the first intern in Jukebox, you kind of made your way up, and you became like the head of artist and label, which is hella lit. And I wanted to know, like, how did this happen, right? Like, you know, because I think it's really interesting for people like me who want to get in this industry, you know, how you make your way up to here. So like, how did you started with Jukebox, and how do you, you know, became the intern and kind of created sort of this position for you?
Yeah. So I started Jukebox in July 2014. So yeah, I like you said, I was the first intern. So they never had an intern before. They didn't really like, you know, so they were quite basic jobs at first. And I did the first my 3 months. I'd only met Alex once at that point, because he was living in Ibiza for the summer. So I think I'd met him in like September or something for the first time. And then at the end of October, when my 3 months was up, they were like, oh, okay, they'd never taken on an intern, so they never hired an intern, or they'd never done anything. So I think they were a bit like, oh, should we, as in whether they had the opportunity to take somebody on and all that. But they were like, oh, first of all, we're going to take you to ADE just as a thank you for like the internship anyway, and then obviously we'll find out further down the line whether you've got a job or stuff. So they invited me to ADE, and then I went on the Friday. I got there on the Friday. I actually missed my morning flight that they'd booked me on the Friday morning, And so I ended up booking my own flight on the Friday. So I got there Friday night. So I was even late for that.
Yeah.
So I was a bit of a loose cannon as well, but like obviously like, and I think they like that about me. But then yeah, I got there on the Friday night and we all went out. There was about 7 of us and went out Friday night, and every bar that we went to, the next venue or the next event, because we do so many events as well. Every few hours, we would lose somebody, or somebody would drop off, or someone would go home or whatever. And then it got to the Saturday morning and we were in Breakfast Club. And there was just me, Alex, and Rob. No idea where Rob went. I think I saw him talking to like a plant. He was in another world. And like, bear in mind, I'd only met Rob about 2 or 3 times. And then, so I went back, saw Alex, and then Alex eventually had gone missing. I was with just another person that I knew from Amsterdam anyway. And then I ended up going back to the house. Had no idea where the apartment was, because obviously I had arrived late on Friday night. And then when I got there, knocked on the door, and they were all still awake, but like having an afters.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and so as soon as I walked in, they were like, "Oh, you've got the job," because I literally I'd outlasted all of them.
You outlasted all of them,
So
yeah.
I literally, so it's true to this day. I actually got my. I mean, they maybe would have hired me anyway, but they definitely hired me at like 2 p.m. on a Saturday when I came back last in the afters, and were like, "We have to keep this guy," and the rest is history.
Holy shit. Oh my God. I mean, so
now if we ever take on interns, there's probably a little bit more professionalism to it. But that was the original first intern and how I got my job.
and how I got your job. Exactly. And you sort of created this position with you, right? In Jukebox. So when you started, what was it that you did in PR? Like when you started doing this, yeah, like properly working at Jukebox once you outlasted the whole crew on
Yeah.
Amsterdam.
So when I first started, obviously, because Jukebox does events and festivals as well. That's the other side of the business. We do the artist, the label, and now obviously the management as well. But we also do like 80 or 90 festivals. Before Corona, we did 80 to 90 festivals and events around the world a year. So it's a mental machine on that side as well. So when I started, I was doing a bit of both. I suppose finding out kind of what I was more into, whether I wanted to work in the event side, whether I wanted to work on the music side. And yeah, I think I'm always obviously going to love the events and the festival side, but I always think that if you work for the artist and the label side, you still go to all the festivals events anyway. So I kind of wanted to work in the music side. I found that a bit more personal rather than dealing with 30 different people on one festival for 6 months. You can actually work with someone day by day. And that's again why I like the management side now, because it's so much more personal. And I think that's what I'm good at anyway. So it was natural for me to suddenly start doing more music stuff and artist stuff. And then eventually, I think it was about 1.5 years down the line that then I was given the job of the head of the artist and label. And from that time, like we had in terms of what we do now, then we must have tripled in terms of the labels we do and the types of artists we do. Like to now be PRing, even like big names like Charlotte DeWitt and Art Bat and stuff like that. And also like obviously working with a lot more of the minimal stuff that I enjoy more maybe, which is obviously on a smaller scale. So it's nice that I've got that balance that I know how to do press for those bigger names, but I also know how to do press for the more kind of sceney style names that obviously need a different approach.
And I feel like that's fucking interesting as well, because like, like since I go to Jukebox, I was always a minimal head. It was always minimal. I've now deviated to electro minimal with breakbeat, I guess. That's how I would put what I'm listening to. But it also speaks about like, you learn like, how like different genres work, because obviously like, there's different outlets that you're going to use for certain genres, like there's different playlisting that you're going to do and all this kind of shit. And I think it's really interesting because I think it kind of opens your mind, if you know what I mean. Because like you're working with like industrial techno, but you're working with deep tech, then you're working with minimal. You know what I mean?
And every approach is massively different. Obviously, this every scene is different as well. And
Yeah.
also the artists that are those kind of bigger techno acts are much more likely to do different types of press to those kind of minimal guys that don't want to do certain things, whereas the techno guys really do. So it's just having that different approach. Obviously, the media that covers those different artists is different as well. So it's having to know, just because loads of techno media doesn't mean you're going to be very good at doing the house media. So it's all those different approaches.
Yeah, it's always that. And also, I mean, you said that you really liked, that you work with artists, and I remember that the moment I got there, well, first day was finding contacts, and fair enough.
That's
But
always the first day.
but it's a very bad first day, bro.
It's
But it's
also
lit.
probably the most valuable first day though, because at the end of the day, in this whole industry, even when it's not just PR and doing stuff like that, and even management, like every asset of every facet, sorry, of the music industry is kind of not who you know, but like it helps if you know people to get in
Exactly.
every door. So whenever people say, "Oh, I'm finding contacts on the first day," like you're literally finding contacts every
Oh
day of your
yeah.
life for the
Oh
rest
yeah,
of your life
yeah.
that you work in this industry. Yeah,
Oh yeah. I mean, it helps, and especially like I think that for anyone who's listening, like who's watching or listening to this, and you think that it's just as easy as you go in Google or LinkedIn and you put the context. No, it's
yeah.
sometimes it's
Yeah, because
hella
there's
tough.
no in the email and there's no in the person, like knowing exactly what like that media
Ex-
guy did last week, or
exactly.
what his plans were at ADE and like that. That is, you basically have to make that email a friend, or even if it's not a friend, it's like it's somebody that like you've had a story with to tell.
Like
Once
exactly.
you've had an interesting night or an interesting story with a media person, then you're pretty much golden for life, because that's basically the whole part of it, making them somebody that they know other than an email.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me because there's a lot of times as well that you know people through email, but you don't know them personally, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, no,
Like,
loads of media I talk to that even over the last 7 years, I've never ever actually met in person, just because they live on the other side of the world. I haven't seen them. Like a lot of the time, ADE is great for that, or festivals. You might
yeah,
meet people, but there's loads of media that I've never ever met. But I actually would say, like, I speak to them 2 or 3 times a week, every week for the last 7 years.
yeah,
So I actually feel like I know them because I'm talking to them about their things they do in life anyway. Like, not just oh, how was your weekend? Like, I actually often talk to them, just like I feel like I actually know them. And then especially with like things like Facebook and Instagram now, you actually see people's lives that, yeah, you've never met them, but I know what that, I know what, I even know like what they're like, you just see personal things that you wouldn't have seen 10,
yeah.
15 years ago.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
for
it's much more
sure.
easier to kind of build up that relationship. It must have been weird, like doing PR like 15, 20 years ago, when like, you were sending send music to people, you had to send it in the post.
It was
Like,
more controlled.
there was
Like,
literally just emails to kind of to even talk to people. So I reckon people must have been sending emails that were like as if like the old school pen pal
yeah,
style. Like my
I'm
nan loves that stuff. So I feel like that's basically what I've become. She had like 100 pen pals at
yeah,
one time, like all around the world, and that's basically what I feel I've got. Like people that I've never actually met in media that I literally email all the time as like a pen pal.
but it's
And
just
maybe we'll never meet. Like, but
uh, probably never, maybe will, but like the crazy thing is, it's internet, literally, because like before everything was more controlled, especially music industry. Like,
yeah, of course.
there was just like only mainstream media, not only, but mainstream media was what was available worldwide. Obviously, electronic music wasn't what it is right now.
Hmm.
20 years ago, no fucking way.
But
Like,
I also think like people, if like so say when ADE was on, say 15, 20 years ago, you'd
yeah,
probably be emailing this person and you might say, right, we're going to meet on a Friday at 9 p.m. You wouldn't actually know what that person looks like because like you never have seen their face or never seen their socials or anything like that. So it'd be even more mad like meeting these people at AD, because like you build up in your head what they look like. Obviously, I know what these media look like nowadays because there's social
yeah,
media.
exactly.
But
There's
yeah, that must have
photos.
been well crazy, just meeting like journalists and editors that you've never met, and then just being like, oh, I wonder what he looks like, and then turn out it's actually a woman. He's just got one of them cross names. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, fair enough. To it, like it, this just made me think. Like when in Peru, I'm from Peru, obviously, and when we used to have like like the landline, like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
phone at the house, and you'll use it, and now it's like I know we still have it, but it's like it's basically like I don't know,
I can't remember the last time I used the landline.
dude, I always pick it up, and it's always fucking like the O2 or Vodafone asking if I want some promotion or some shit, or my mom basically.
Mine was always the classic one at the bottom of the stairs, where like you could only move it about 1 meter, so you had to
Yeah.
sit on the bottom of the stairs, like chatting to someone in the like your pals in the dark at like in 2001.
uh
But yeah,
2001.
I can't
I
remember the last time I used the landline.
Yeah, and you know, obviously shit changes, right?
Mhm.
And I want to tell me like you've said it's I mean it's definitely a personal work because I remember like when doing the research for let's say a Matthias Tanzman release for instance like you kind of look you do your research and I remember you told me like you need to talk to the artist. I mean not use an intern but when you're working with them to see what they want because it might be that they want to be the car of DJ Mag, they want to get more bookings, more exposure for labels, that kind of
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
And there might be people that just don't want that much that like they want the minimum stuff but that's because it's what they want. So I think that's crazy and it's amazing. And talking about that, how like not how what is it that you do as a like in as a head of artist and label and PR, like so what were like the more common tasks that you started doing whilst you were growing in Jukebox, and then like now that you're a head of artist and label, like what is it that you do for instance in the job?
I mean, I think from the start, I mean, now I have a lot more sole kind of option in terms of the A&R of it. So like, I will sign off kind of who we sign if I think we should sign them or if I think we should work with them. So that's also why in terms of the label side, we have such a broad range. Like just because like this particular genre is something that I like, I also know that this is you want to work with different genres, and I think it looks good as for the company as a whole. The fact that
Yeah,
people go, oh, we're not kind of pigeonholed with Jukebox. It's like you get some PR companies that are like, yeah, they only do house records, or they only do these kind of like dance radio hits, like kind of that kind of style. Or you
yeah,
might get some PR companies that only do really cool underground techno, but they don't do anything else. So I think the fact that we have a really wide range and across the spectrum, I think that looks from the outside as a good thing for Jukebox, because if
oh
it's good
yeah,
music, then I want to work with it, even if it's
exactly.
not something that necessarily I would choose to go out to an event and listen to on a night. It's not it wouldn't be in the top three of that, but it still means that there are people that definitely do like it, and it's still good.
Exactly.
So I think that I've always thought that, and that's where I think that from the last 5 years, from when I started as the head of artist and label at Jukebox to where we are now, I think that the music is a lot more something that represents me a bit better,
Okay.
um, which I obviously deliberately done. And in terms of like the artist stuff, I think that the reason why I like doing artist projects, especially from the start, is because like you literally, like for instance, it's known obviously that I look after Artbat,
Yeah,
and Artbat are obviously huge on the world scale now.
yeah.
But when
Oh
I
yeah,
first
yeah, they're big.
started working with them, they'd probably been going for about 4 or 5 months, 6 months, maybe maximum. I
Yeah.
think like one release out that had been okay, but like not really, no one really knew us. When I started pitching them out, no one knew who they were. Um, but then now, like 4 years later, like obviously everybody knows who they are. They've had like a central mix. They've had, so for me, that's quite a proud achievement, because at the end of the day, they no one knew them. Like media were just like asking me, like, who are these
Who are
Ukrainian?
they? Yeah. So
Yeah, so
so
I enjoy that bit where like you see an artist and you can see that, obviously I didn't know they were going to be as big as they are now
oh
in
yeah.
still quite a short space of time, but I knew that they had something that was that I thought was going to be liked and would get picked up, and I expected them to grow quite quick, but just not to this level. But yeah, so
Yeah.
now when I sit there and talk to them now, and even their manager and stuff, I just like, it's only been 4 years, so I think that's how far we've come in 4 years is mental.
Oh,
So
it's hella crazy. Like
I
it's
do enjoy the artist stuff, because it's like you see the growth of like from the start to the end, and it's a bit like why
yeah.
we've started doing more management now, because that's obviously the same principle. You start with someone, you sit down with them and you say like, where do we want to be in a year? Where do we want to be in like 2-3 years? And you plan like that long. Um,
Yeah.
and then if if you're sitting there in 2-3 years time and you double where that you even tried to get, then there's something quite rewarding with that, especially with
So
someone that you
all right.
massively believe in.
So that's how you select, right? Like you select different types of music
I
and you
select
get
in terms of, yeah, in
and
terms of if I like it, but also if I think the long goal of yeah, I like it, but like I can just see that they're going to be really liked by
yeah.
other people.
Yeah, and so, but basically, right? So you said that you had Arbet, let's say here, and now they're fucking here, right? Like one of the
Yeah.
hottest fucking artists in melodic techno at the moment, like for show. Um, but what is it? So like, what is it that you do to get them there? So like, like what is it that you do? Like press releases, pitch to people. Like I remember pitching, finding angles obviously for features, um I mean, it's obviously it depends on the size of the artist, what features you're gonna get, and if
Yeah.
they're gonna approach you. But what are some tasks that you do as a PR agent?
So, for instance, we're talking about if we're on the topic of art bats. So obviously, when they started, they were unheard of. So the main process for the first few months is to get them into media that cover obviously that style of music, that would be
Yeah,
interested in that style of music, and get their profile and awareness to grow. Because at the moment it's nothing, like nobody knows who they are. So the music is already, they're signed to certain labels. That we know that that's coming, but it's making sure that people hear that music and people start regularly hearing the name Art Bat. So it's quite an open book when you're at the start, as long as it fits genre wise, the media.
yeah,
You can kind of get them. It doesn't have to, it's not as picky, because at the end of the day, we just need them to be out there for people to see. Obviously, as time goes on, then you start going, if say we've done them for a year, this is from a year to 18 months, right? We want to actually get this key podcast or this key thing in Mixmag or this. So then
yeah,
the targets go up a lot more in terms of the quality, but it's a bit more picky about where we want to be. And I think that throughout the whole time, it's having that communication with the artist and with the manager, saying this is where we want to be the next step. Because the first few months, they are going to be on smaller places, because you're just not going to get those bigger places. No one knows. It's explaining who you are. That process is
yeah.
there. Like things like Instagram and stuff now obviously helps with a profile, because if they're suddenly on, everyone's scrolling and seeing this name coming up and they're hearing these tunes, suddenly they're putting a
I
face
mean,
to the name.
dude, Solomon, like the dude definitely knows how to rock the fuck out of everybody, but he became sort of like a meme. Like,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
electronic music, and that kind of makes you okay. So let me listen to his tracks, and like
yeah.
go to
He
some
was
of
quite.
tune.
He was obviously a big supporter of Art Bat as well at the start, and then they had the release on Dynamic, I think, like 2 years in or something. But yeah, he was a big supporter, and obviously he's playing everywhere. So there were so many videos of him playing like certain tracks, and people were like, "What? Who's this?" And then it's
The
just making sure
memes.
that that's yeah. Once you start that hype, it's about keeping that hype going. So
I think for Solomon, it like he just became sort of like this kind of cult thing in for dance music memes.
yeah,
And it became like it was sort of organic, like
yeah.
it was because people just like the one with the laptop, like where it has like the chicks on like up front, and he's like with the laptop and like watching to I don't know, it's fucking hilarious. Like, but yeah, and also obviously Libertinos Brothers are I think like one of the best examples for like how videos could make you fucking viral
Yeah,
back in the day.
yeah,
Because like it's I don't want to say there's a rule, right? But they're like top of the top, obviously. And they're young, like they're fucking young in
I think
compare
their
like
videos were really good from when they were young, just because of the energy. Like they just had like mad
yeah.
energy for like. I think that I saw one the other day. It was like they were like 16, and it was
Oh,
just,
like
it was a
crazy.
tiny party as well. It wasn't even like
Oh
a big
yeah,
party, but just they were vibing as
they were
if
just
there was
vibing the
like
fuck out of
10,000
it.
people in there. There was probably like 50 of their mates, but they were just like playing as if it
They
was
would
a
just play like with CDs instead
yeah,
of
yeah, of
like
course.
USB of the CDs, which is I like just for me to imagine that. And I'm fucking 22, I'm a baby, but like just imagine people playing with CDs. It's like shit. Wow, dude. And
But you don't even know what a CD is, mate.
I had Walkmans back in the day, before
You've,
iPads were shit.
you've probably done something off a CD once every now and again.
Yeah, yeah,
CDK.
yeah. But dude, so it's basically in PR. It's just trying to find the right place for exposure for an artist or label that you're working with, so that it can get to people, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
obviously, like I think that definitely these are experimented, or for me, for instance, people like I don't know, like the Josh Bakers of today that are doing this shit with Cinto and all this shit that's fucking amazing. Like
mhm,
they obviously know and have an understanding of the role of PR in electronic music, but there's also a lot of DJs and producers that have no clue, and like first time managers, right, that have also no clue of how this shit works.
yeah,
But it's really fucking important, because like there's hella lot of DJs, like hella lot, and the reason is like how are they gonna listen to you, if you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Like how are you gonna get there? So what will you say it's the role of PR in this industry? Like, and you know, like what's the role, and like if the role changes for when you are like where when you're an up and comer to when you are big, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think, well, at the end of the day, you can be like, you could reel off names and loads of artists where they might make absolutely banging tunes, but at the end of the day, it's about people hearing them. So you can have all the best fucking album in the world, but if no one actually is, if there's no PR to it and no one sees it, all that people are seeing it are maybe just your followers already. And like some artists are cool with that. That they, you know, they're quite happy being in this place, and they
Oh
don't want
yeah.
to, they don't necessarily want to grow. They just want, they're making music for, because they want to, you know, they've got their key following, they're getting gigs. So that's fine, and that's 100% fine. There's going
Yeah,
to be
bro.
artists like that all the time. But then obviously some people want to grow, and they want new people to see their music, which they wouldn't be able to do if they were just putting it out and putting out, oh, I've got a new track on my socials. That's just, that's the basic, that, you know, the lowest that you can do, really. So
Mm-hmm.
so anyone that wants to tap into those extra regions and extra followers and extra fans and stuff, then obviously that's when we would step in. And I think, like I say, some that might be quite wary at first, or that they, you know, they just don't want to have the extra cost and stuff like that. I think after the first 3 months, if they did, they would definitely see just the levels of what happened before and what they're doing now. And that in turn means that they're going to be getting more gigs. Like at the end of the day, more people are going to see them, they're going to have more followers, they're going to have more gigs, which in turn means a higher gig fee. So suddenly it's
Yeah.
I feel like you have to invest in yourself to reap the repercussions further down the line. And some of the biggest artists, they still do press, like Charlotte de Witt. Like we're doing her press now. Like Charlotte de Witt is known by everyone. Like, you know, she can
Oh
put
yeah.
anything out and it's going to get reach, but she still understands that the idea of press is still necessary to keep that momentum going. And to still have those key bits that like she's not done before or whatever. So even when you get to that big, you still it's beneficial to have a press person.
Yeah, and I mean, it's I'm in no way saying this is like an overnight success, because it fucking isn't. But it's like all of a sudden, you know, you have Charlotte as one of, like, I don't know, like um one of like the leaders, right? Like top headliners, and it's an interesting story, and you know, like and PR, like dude, like PR. I mean, this is basically PR as well at the same time. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
like I think that at this stage, like when you're at this stage of in their careers, they're obviously super young, if you know what I mean, like both in age and in how much time they've been there.
Yeah,
You know, like the local dices of the world are a different story because they've been there for fucking ever. But
yeah, yeah,
but with Charlotte, it's like, yes, she's relatively young in terms of like the amount of time she's been in this industry, but at the same time, she's already like up fucking here, like
yeah.
top of the top. And
And she had a super strong press campaign right at the start of her career. Like it almost felt like she came out of nowhere, but then like she was everywhere. Um, so I think that you know that's obviously helped. And then she stood the test of time and grew because of the music and because of her sets and stuff. But I think it's also because she's had a great team behind her, management team, and then now obviously PR team, which is constantly pulling in the same direction. Like her ethos of what she's trying to do is even from before I started working with her, it's quite obvious and consistent. And I think that's helped her by becoming what she, like, everyone knows what they're going to get with her.
what's her ethos then? What would you say is her ethos?
Well, I mean, she's very like I said, from working with her, that they are very like stringent in terms of they only want to have 6 releases a year. They only want to do this. They only want this. Um, everything, like they don't even accept demos because they only want people from a certain, a bit like how like you have from other crews like Dynamic and stuff like that, but theirs is so much more tighter, I think.
Yeah.
um, Even the fact when they were going to do the contacts parties, they only want to do it you know, around a certain, like have a certain artistic style to it, have like food in it, have like this, which isn't your standard techno party.
Yeah.
So they want to be like a proper brand and an arty brand like that, without trying to succumb to like the stereotypical techno
Have
parties that you would have.
I mean, have uniqueness, if you know what I mean, like especially in this
Yeah,
world where
exactly.
like
Definitely to stand out. Yeah, definitely.
it's definitely standing out. Like for instance, like the guys from Fuse, like they, like in terms of sound, you know, like tech house is kind of growing up here. You know, like deep tech is also growing, like super steady, and well, not steady, but like extra fucking fast. And you see them, and you understand why Fuse is one of the most important labels at the moment, and probably from the decade. like with Yaku maybe as well.
There's a lot more labels like that now, or a lot more people that are doing
But they started
parties like
it.
that as well now. But they're
But
not. But will they still be doing it like Fuse are 10, 15, 15 years
in
time?
years exactly,
That's the thing. So
exactly.
that's what Fuse has done well, is obviously they got their identity, and they were popular anyway. But it's the fact they've lasted that test of time, and they're still introducing like newer artists and
Yeah,
still focusing on that as well. Whereas, but still
and
obviously keeping the old
yeah,
head as well.
keep it the old heads and. You know, like you have the Casey Spillmans of the world, and I remember seeing Josh Baker's podcast.
Yeah.
And you know, Casey
And
going like,
Raymono's
uh,
just done who's another
and
artist I manage. He's
yeah,
done
e-
a release on
exactly.
the Locust. So he's playing a few of the Locust parties actually in the summer. They're the early stage.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're still social distanced. I think it's end of May.
Yeah,
But yeah, like so obviously,
93, right? I think
yeah.
it's 93 for days. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sick ass venue.
So
Sick,
yeah,
sick
so
venue.
they're gonna be socially distanced still because we're still end of May. But yeah, there'll be pretty big events. And even for Ray, like he's not he's had it like everyone, not being able to play gigs in the UK throughout the year, half the time
Oof.
not being able to leave the country.
Yeah,
So yeah, he's buzzing for that. So it's going to be pretty special, I think. But yeah, even those parties then, they were a mix of like people that you know from Fusion, and then also up and coming talent,
yeah,
maybe just released on them and stuff like that.
yeah.
So they've got that balance perfect, basically.
It's cool. I think it's a nice era where we're seeing like artists sort of mentoring like younger artists. So
Yeah,
you know, like for instance, Jaden Thompson with the Martinez brothers.
yeah, of
Like this kind of
course.
stuff. Casey with Enzo. You know, like basically everybody. And I think Easton Dodge as well. At the moment is I think he's kind of like, you know, helping this wave of Stussy, Prunk, kind of like the deep tech guys.
Yeah,
And to me it's just crazy. I remember talking this with Graham. It's like there's cycles, if you know what I mean. Like there's always cycles in terms of music, and
yeah,
like what's underground, it's not gonna be underground if you know people fuck with it, and there's no problem with that, like with it not being underground. Like
yeah, yeah,
uh, it's more parties, it's more fucking opportunities, like to go party mini artists, you know, like
yeah,
it's cool. And I think that's also, you know, you talked about managing artists, and I think that's also I mean, no, obviously music business study, and I haven't managed anyone per se, but I feel like it's really important to see, you know, what the impact of the artist can be, like, you know, what impact they can make in terms of sound, you know, like if the sound that they're going, it's like, for instance, like Odin and Fatso at the moment, you know,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
working
yeah.
with them,
Of course. Love those guys.
like all of a fucking sudden, boop, they're
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
like, you know
But
what I'm saying?
they're actually someone that we've spoken to. Like, they literally have no idea what even press would even be. But
Okay,
that's what I like about them, because they
yeah,
literally they've just done it just because they sound so fucking unique, and yeah, just the general demeanor of them is just. And yeah, I mean, you say that they've just kind of popped off. I mean, they've probably, but it's kind of probably not been as fast as we think, but it's still like
yeah, yeah,
you only
yeah, yeah.
have to see one video of them, and the whole live show was just like fucking nuts. So
No,
yeah, they're
it's
going to be huge. I can just tell from straight away.
yeah, exactly. So, and yeah, like I said, I mean, it's always about, you know, making your way in this industry. You know, there's people that take more time, there's people that take, you know, less time.
Mm.
I also think it's important for artists to understand, this is coming from someone that worked in PR with Pete, that if you're relatively new, don't expect to be featured on an essential
Yeah.
mix, or don't expect your track to be played by Troxler at Circo Loco on a
There needs
Monday.
to be realistic goals, but then
Exactly.
there just still have to be those goals. So like
Oh yeah,
again,
yeah.
just saying to Art, like they actually did say in the first year or so, they were asking me about getting an essential mix. And I was like, well, okay, but it's a bit early days yet. First of all, let's focus on being played on Radio 1 regularly,
Mm-hmm.
and having Pete Tong supporting you. But they actually said that after about 6 months. So obviously at the time it was just like, well, that, it sounds ridiculous, but it's important to say, okay, we might have to wait a little bit longer, focus on getting the plays first, and then maybe in a year's time, then we can pitch for that. So it's important. You're not just saying, no, that's not going to happen, but
No, but it's like
planning
exactly.
that it will happen at the right time, and then let's put plans in place to make that happen over the next
Yeah,
year, and then we
exactly.
can talk about it. So then that's basically what we did. Made sure they were getting regularly played, and then if you're getting played, every release that you have is played by Pete Tong, then you can have the conversation. Oh, how about an essential mix?
Yeah.
So it's important to, like say, manage expectations, but at the same time, like still set goals and still try and get to the expectations they want. Just make sure that they're not going to happen they're not going to happen overnight, and make sure they know that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, plan it, like draw a plan. So like you want to have an essential mix, hella lit. So, that's not gonna happen now, but let's see how, like what are the stepping stones to get there. So if
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
getting
exactly.
features, if it's getting you nowadays playlisted as well, obviously. Um, and I want to go back just for a second. I definitely want to talk about radio and the essential mix. Because I think I don't know, like maybe I'm just too young for radio, I guess. I don't want to insult anyone with that.
I
But
don't think you were born when Essential Mix started, mate.
dude, 1998. 2nd of June 1998. But yeah. I am
I was 12 then. So I
you
was
you
probably going to my first rave.
12. Shit, man. Nah, I won the first one. I don't know if this is the first time that Pops and Mom are gonna listen to the story, but like the first time I went to rave, I think I was like what, 15 years old, 14, no, 15 going 16. And I was supposed to go to a friend's house on the beach. Obviously, we escaped. Fucking Damien last
How
was
long did it
just one.
last? A few days?
No, bro, no, 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 no.
Oh,
Like,
quiet one then, yeah?
no, no, few hours, like maybe 4 or 5 hours. But there's a video of that rebel rave. I look like a fucking baby, just going like and dancing like that.
This is
Like,
this is in Lima, yeah?
yeah. There's Lima, and obviously, it's funny, like when you go to your first race and all this shit, and just change the tone a little bit. I just want to go back to the fact that you kind of created your way in this industry, right? It's the same with artists, and that's how you help them. But as an individual, not necessarily as an artist, right? But as someone who wants to get in this industry, um, from someone that has made his way, like basically DIY. Um, uh, how do you make your way in this industry now? Like for someone like me that wants to get in this industry, like find a
I think I,
job or
I
make a
think
job.
I think one of the things that stand out to me, and when people ask me about like when I first started, is I made sure that I was going to every single event. Like with Jukebox, we do the events at the festival side as well. But even though I was on the other side, doing just the artists and the label, I was still going to every, like if there was a festival coming up and we had been taking the press trips over, I would go to everything, even if I had to pay for it myself, because obviously I'd have the ticket, but I'd pay for my flight and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
I knew that going to these festivals and going to these events, and if they're in the UK, then obviously just going to the UK ones as well. I
Hmm.
knew that was how I was going to grow in it, because I'd be hanging out with these media anyway. Obviously, I was going because I wanted to party and I wanted to go to
But
a festival and get
right.
fucked up. But at the same time, I knew that I would be meeting the media there, and so obviously these are the people that
So it
are
was
going to
networking
benefit me in the
basically.
long. Yeah, well, it meant that I build those relationships from meeting them in person. But like I say, it was a combination of, obviously I wanted to go to the festivals anyway, and
Yeah.
I wanted to party, but at the same time, I knew that it would be invaluable for me to be meeting these people all the time, and I had a free opportunity to do that. So yeah, I literally, for the first year, 2 years especially, was going everywhere. Like when every BPM I went, every obviously ADE, every festival that we were doing, like across all over Europe. Sometimes we'd go to like the stuff in America, so I'd go to New York. We went to Brazil a few times, me and Alex, for Warung, which, I mean, that doesn't really need, you don't really need to sell Warung to anybody.
No, to like to
But we
anybody.
had but we had so many Brazilian clients at the time that it was
Yeah.
really good to go meet these Brazilian clients, meet the people from Warung, meet the guys at La Rock and stuff like that. And I'd met like, so that 5-day trip, which was, yeah, it was loads of parties, but I actually ended up meeting like 30, 40 clients. Like,
So
so
it's networking. Like
yeah,
so
exactly.
it's
Networking and partying at the same time, and finding
and
that balance. And then
and
obviously when
finding
you
that
meet these
balance.
guys,
Yeah.
don't make a dick of yourself. Like that's kind of self-explanatory. Or if you do make a dick of yourself, just make yourself a dick slightly less than what they are. But I've always felt that. But it meant that I was just meeting all these people. So then obviously these people now, even though they live in Brazil, they know me, like, because I've had like a wild night with them, or I've been to an after party with them, and they've chatted to me, and they actually feel like I'm not, it's not just a guy that works for them. It actually feels like a friend now. So
Exactly.
and there were, I could think of countless trips like that. That's just this Brazilian one, that like there's probably 50 countries around the world where I've done something and I've gone and now I know them people, like countless ones in Ibiza, like for instance. Obviously if you go to Ibiza, you go over there just because you want to go to Ibiza, but at the end of the day, you also go because you want to meet. Like IMS was a huge one. We've been to IMS
Mhm.
about every year for about the last 7 years, because you look forward to it as well, because you meet clients that you already have, that you already work with, that you just you never see out throughout the year, and you also meet new clients, and straight away they meet you rather than an email. They meet you and you're having a beer with them, and
Exactly.
it's a lot more
Yeah.
personal. Because at the end of the day, if you want to be good at this job, you have to be very, very good at being personal, because that's one of the main things is with the clients, and also with the media. So
Exactly.
um yeah, that's something that I think that I was always quite good at anyway. And I think that now, after 7 years of doing this job, but I know it, like, it's very easy to me. It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. That to me was one of the things that stood out with the job. I remember that when I for Jukebox High, and I if anyone wants to apply to a job in this industry, would be my advice and experience. Just wrote cold pitches, a fucking gazillion, like 50, and sent emails to like
Who
to
said that? Sorry, they said,
so,
right?
so basically, like, I wrote cold pitches. Like, I
Okay,
just
yeah,
wrote an
yeah.
email saying, hello, my name is Lawrence, so for Jukebox, right? I saw the webpage. The webpage was hella fucking lit. Like, it was crazy. And like, the brands were all like, the brands, the artists, the labels were fucking crazy. And I was like, all right, why not? PR seems interesting. I don't know if I'll do this for the rest of my life, but I think it's a good way to pimp up my CV and like to learn from something that I might usually not learn that much
Mhm.
if I go straight into events, for instance.
Of course.
And I remember, yeah, like, just writing like 50 emails and to get a reply from Alex Jukes. Then Alex didn't reply for like a month and a half, came back.
That's just standard though.
And then, like, yeah, but I mean, it was like around Christmas time, so it was obviously not the best time. But
Mhm.
to me, I was like, fuck, dude, like, I don't want to do another essay. Like, I want to work. Like, I want to experience, like, this is, like, have context such as like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all the fucking perks and learn. And I remember, like, writing the cold pitch and asking Leo Duarte if Jukebox was good, and he was like, bro, Jukebox is like a hella lit company, like, go for it. And when I went, I remember, like, the first time I was like, trousers, like, with the belt, vest, like, extra fucking plain vanilla kid.
The first time
Uh,
you came into the office, I remember Julio was there as well. Julio,
yeah,
for anyone listening, is
yeah, yeah.
at the time he was about 4 months old, four
it
months
was
old puppy.
He was a fucking
He,
pup. So if
and
anyone's
he
not seen, Julio is Pete's dog. Amazing pup. But if you had Pringles or some shit like that, holy fuck, they were gonna disappear.
I don't think it needs to be Pringles, although I do remember he absolutely loved your
uh,
Pringles. Every time you had Pringles,
yeah.
he was all
Um,
over you. But
but
yeah, I think it could be anything, to be honest.
like, to
He
me,
hasn't really changed much since.
no. I mean, well, he's
Just
bigger for
bigger.
sure. Yeah,
He's
it's
still a
bigger.
pest when
But
it comes to food.
but
Brutal parties is that's where his heart is. Basically like his dad.
I mean, yeah, and I can tell that from experience. It was a nice piff showcase that we went in Fabric.
Yeah.
But
That's probably what was that? That was 3 weeks before
Oh, that was 3 weeks
the
before
lockdown, wasn't
Rona.
it?
Yeah, before the
Yeah.
Rona season began. Yeah. But what started out to me was, like, I was obviously fucking extra shy there. I'm guessing that just comes from being polite. But it was cool. Like, I could have, like, the AirPods, listen to music, or you would play music, and it would be like listening to electronic music all day. And, like, like, even though I was the youngest one, like, kind of like-minded people, I could go to work like this. It
Yeah.
it just felt, like,
I think when you first start at Jukebox, I think because there's say 10 people that have known each other uh,
yeah,
quite a long time anyway. So a lot of us have worked for numerous years with each other. So it can be quite intimidating in that way, I suppose,
yeah.
because everyone knows each other really well. But then after a few days, because of how it is in that environment, you suddenly then feel really, really close, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
the initial first couple of days, because obviously you can see everyone and how well everyone gets on with each other, it can be quite intimidating, I suppose. But then straight after a couple of days, and normally, look, we've already had like 2 sets of drinks. so it
Yeah.
suddenly becomes a lot more friendly, and you straight away. Oh, that's what I felt. I know how I felt like that when I first started.
Yeah.
Um,
It's I mean, it's definitely like that. I remember, like, like, in NBA players have, like, welcome to the NBA moment, and that I remember that Alex went to Tulum for like a week, like 2 days after I started Jukebox.
yeah.
And
Oh yeah, yeah. Because it would have been January. Yeah. So he would have gone.
exactly. And we were upstairs, and we were all upstairs because there wasn't a lot of people. And I remember there was like a cricket match on the TV and everybody working. I remember I was like,
That was Rob, that
like
was
I was
doing Rob Chadwick.
that
Who the
was
hell
Rob.
plays cricket in
Eh,
January?
exactly, and I was just having fun with it, and all of a sudden, like Rob Prince, welcome to Jukebox, mate, and it
Who
was
was
just
that?
like
Who was
Rob,
that?
just I
Rob.
mean, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
Rob.
like
That was a good impression there.
yeah, but yeah, it was it was fun, and I think that obviously for anyone that's trying to get a job, like just network. Obviously, if you want to get fucked, just choose the right time. If it's the after party, or choose like when you're about to go home and you're not gonna network because you might do shit that you might not want to do, obviously, and not give the impression you want to give. But I think it's cool because it's basically an industry that evolves around partying, and
Yeah.
I
I
think
think it's just that the best people are the people that can get that balance. Like I'm never going to tell anybody not to party because
oh
that's
yeah,
basically,
yeah,
what I still do now and what I've done for the whole of my life. But at the
yeah,
same time, it's having that balance that um, knowing that, oh, if you've got this to do tomorrow, then you can party, but make sure that like you're in bed by this time. Or make sure everyone's different. Make sure that you're
yeah.
still going to be fresh and that you're going to be able to do the thing tomorrow. And I think that's what I've learned the most, probably, especially over the last few years, is that knowing that if I have to do this in the next morning, then I need to tame it down slightly the day before, and then go heavy the day after that.
Exactly.
It's like
Like
planning out your week a lot better and knowing when to pick your wins and whatnot.
it's like if you are hella fucking like trashed, just basically schedule your emails for Monday so that
Yeah,
so that you don't have to reply and
like the classic at
really
ADE
late.
where on a Friday you never have a meeting, you never book a meeting at ADE on a Friday before midday, or I
Yeah.
don't, because
Okay, fair enough. Okay,
well,
why?
that's like a standard rule now. Like never have a. I think I maybe once had one on the Friday at like 9:30, 10 o'clock or something, and like neither of us at that meeting wanted to be there at nine
Yeah.
thirty, 10 o'clock. Even the guy I was meeting, I don't. We hadn't met before. It was fine. It wasn't like it was a bad meeting. We completely got through it each, but we were both like,
You were hammered.
why did we weren't hammered, but we were just like 2 hours sleep or 3 hours sleep and felt like shit. And we were just like, why did we do this at 10 o'clock? We could have done this at 12. So it was a very slow
Yeah.
conversation to what it could have been if we'd have waited a couple of hours. So I just thought nothing ever good happens at 80 in a meeting before midday.
So
Everything afterwards is a blur anyway.
yeah. So talking about that, I usually tend to ask the guests this kind of what's the craziest in some sense, and what's the craziest, like not craziest but like funniest maybe, or like sauciest,
So
kind of like encounter you've had with an artist
with an
that,
artist,
yeah,
I mean, I've had many funny
but one that you think that like kind of stands out.
I mean, it's not one particular story, but like when I first met Damien, the Mechanism,
Yeah.
because I manage him now, but like it just started from an initial conversation, and then the first time he came we went to Paris to literally for him to sign the contract. The first time I'd properly met him, and so we were in Paris, and straight away from that, like we ended up having like this weird, not romantic day. Alex was there as well, but it was just like. When you feel like straight away somebody so well.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even know them that, like, it's not like we'd spoke for ages on WhatsApp or anything like that. I just literally, from the moment we got to Paris, we knew him really, really well. And then that whole day just became, because we were only there till like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So we were in Paris for like 8 hours.
8 hours.
So much happened in that 8, 9 hours where like for someone that you've never met and you're signing a contract to manage, that I just knew from day one that, like, I won't go into too much detail, but I just knew that was like, he was going to be someone that I'm going to want to work with for a while. Yeah, so that was a pretty funny 8 hours in Paris, and that actually came the day before we'd been in Awakenings to see Artbat playing in a show. So we
Oh
literally
my
went to
God.
Amsterdam for the day, and then stayed overnight, then got the plane back, and then went straight to Paris for the 8 hours. So basically I look like a drug smuggler, just going to Amsterdam for the day, and then I come back and then go to Paris for the day, and then came back.
Yeah.
But it was actually like, these were actually two, someone who like Artbat, who we do, like big artists that we do press for, and then obviously Damien Madrid. So, and the way that I looked on these planes and these trains probably definitely looked like a drug smuggler. So Yeah, it was fun. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't literally name just one story. I mean, there's been many. The amount of festivals I've been to, like I said, the times I was in Brazil with the Brazilian lot of Warung, there's so much stuff happened there. There's so many times I've been with artists at BPM, which is just like ridiculous parties that I wouldn't want to start listing about everything what they do. But yeah, I've had millions of that's at the end of the day, that's why I'm in this job. That it's moments and funny moments like that with artists that you work with that you and even like people that you just people that work at Jukebox that makes it why I want to do it.
Yeah,
Why I don't want to sit and work in a bank and
yeah. Like,
cat out someone's tax return. Do you know what I mean? So
I mean, like, it's obviously that it's not that you're gonna like, every little thing that you do in the job. I remember doing the reports. Fuck, dude, that was tough. Helping in the
yeah,
in the reports, because it would be like probably 2 hours per each report, or maybe three. Like, I mean, three
yeah.
hours, like in the sense that you're working like for 40 minutes, go down for a cigarette, get up, and like start doing all this shit.
Yeah,
Holy fuck!
especially when you're doing like the festival reports. Obviously,
Exactly,
they're fucking
they're crazy.
ridiculous amounts of time. But then obviously I do weekly artist ones. They're not so bad, but they're
Uh,
not the funnest part of the job. But at the end of the day, that's the reason why I'm doing the job. I have to report what I did.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's not the
what's
funnest Friday.
it's not the funnest one, but it's fucking cool because like to me it was like, okay, so Lorenzo, working fucking Amnesia, and just knowing that you're working for like for such a brand like Amnesia and that kind of shit, it kind of motivates you. It's like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
no,
like
exactly.
it's, or even working with with an ex NBA Miami Heat player,
I was running,
Ronnie
yeah.
Sakali. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's mad like some of the variety of clients we have. Like I say, obviously used to be an NBA star in like the 90s, playing with
Yeah,
Michael Jordan, and then now
play,
like
yeah.
so
So,
people really interested in clients that you have that like, and then his music, his music's great now. So like you've got stuff like that, and you've got clients like that, and then you've got people that are completely like 19, 20, really underground, like young kids, and so. But yeah, so everyone's massively different.
yeah,
I've never actually met Ronnie, but he sounds like an absolute joke, like amazing character.
I
So
haven't met him. It just
I'm sure if Miami hadn't been cancelled the last couple of, well, like last year and then this year, then I might have gone. But yeah, maybe in the future.
last year, yeah. Remember I went and got fucking stuck in
Yeah,
Miami.
you landed
Yeah,
there, and then they
all
cancelled
parties canceled.
as you got off the plane. That's good luck, that one.
Dude, like it was
At
gonna be
least
the
you were over
same.
there then, and then it meant you could go back to Peru to see your family and stuff.
Y-
Otherwise, you'd have been stuck in England, and England's not been a great place for, especially London for a pandemic. It's not like we're
Yeah,
known for
I
our.
mean, look, I feel you, but at the same time, it's like going back to living with my parents, which I fucking love. But it's like, you don't have like the same freedom and
Yeah,
liberties that you get.
I don't think I
Uh,
could have been living at my mom's.
like, dude, like, like
So
imagine
yeah,
this. Like, I can't go after parties, so like, like I can't go to my house like at 3 p.m. the next day. If I do that, I'll get killed. I get
yeah,
fucking killed by both my parents. Um, obviously, like, you don't want a fucking corpse just walking like,
yeah.
and like at
Well,
fucking
the
3
reason why I
p.m.
say about London is because obviously, like you moved to London, and I love London because obviously there's so much to do. There's so much that there's so amazing restaurants, there's so many
Yeah.
bars, there's so many clubs to go to, so many. Close all them, and then you've literally just got London City. So the
Yeah.
nature of London isn't, obviously maybe on the outskirts there's some like there's pretty places to go to, but the nature of central London is pretty non-existent. So if you take all the cool places to go, you're literally just walking
It
around and like zombies in a
eh,
loads of shutters down. That's it, basically.
but it
Oh,
depends on how you say it, I think, because like for me, London, at least every time I go, I leave and I come back, I'm just like not overwhelmed. But like if it was starstruck, like when you just meet an artist and you go like, holy shit. But it's not like I walk in London and I go like, oh my God, nah. But like I just walk and I see the city and it's like, holy fuck, like this is fucking impressive.
yeah,
Maybe because in Peru we have more nature than those kind of nice,
yeah, of
kind of.
course. I wouldn't.
So
I've been to Peru, so I wouldn't compare Peru and London. But I mean,
mm,
yeah, it's similar. There's obviously like built up parts of Peru that have it. I just think,
oh yeah,
like I
yeah, yeah.
say, once this is all over, London will go back to being where there's,
20,
we'll have had a
21st of
year
June.
break of it, and then hopefully everything that was kind of still getting quite normal to you
Open.
will be exciting again.
Will be exciting, and like think it's a shame for people that have just come to study in London right now because they haven't had London as it is.
Yeah, no, of
Lately,
course.
it's just fucking crazy. And if you like any type of nightclub, but if you like electronic music, it's hella
It must
fucking
be such a
pangin'.
weird year to come over to
Like,
uni and then.
and but yeah, Pete, obviously, we're almost done. But I wanted to ask you, like PR has changed obviously a lot. As we were talking, like the Martinez brothers back in the day with the videos, now the social media. Um, how do you see PR in the next years? Like, how do you like? What do you think could affect PR and like the way you do and what things you guys do?
Well,
Like, for instance, like for pop artists, TikTok. The emergence of
yeah,
TikTok. So for electronic music, what you say? It's something that like kind of might change. Because for instance, like podcasts, I think it's one of them. There's a lot of
yeah.
like there's
I think
people doing
podcast definitely.
podcasts, and I think there's different types. You have like me, which is like more from like a fan, sort of just starting in this industry point of view. You've got from producers,
Yeah,
and I think people
and
kind of
even artists doing their own regular podcast with
yeah,
like
yeah,
other artists is going to be, I think, will be
e-
definitely something.
exactly.
It's a bit more personal press, and at the moment, people want to know. Obviously, they want to know the music, but they want to know the person behind the music. So that's why why things like Instagram are so huge now, because it's like you get to see a bit more of an insight into the actual artist,
Yeah.
um, which you wouldn't have 10, 15 years ago have had that as much opportunity.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Things like you said, TikTok. I think TikTok is. I feel like the crossover for TikTok for um for underground electronic music is a little bit more like, most of the TikTok things you think of with pop music and more commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Can't really see it crossing over. I just don't think it works for, like, you talk about like minimal and stuff like that, and
No.
cooler kind of like, I just don't see it ever fitting in because it doesn't fit with the type of crowd. Also, the ages of TikTok is people that would generally listen to more poppy style music. But I think for the music industry, I think TikTok's obviously already is huge.
Such as Spotify as well. Obviously,
Yes, and obviously Spotify as well.
Spotify.
I mean, that was always, it's been, it's not like
It's
it's just happened. It's been last couple of years, but I think now that people are seeing the effect of it even more.
oh
So
yeah,
yeah, I
and
think I think ways of doing, when you talk about promoting a release, the ways of promoting a release have definitely changed. Where like Instagram is one of the hugest tools for promoting stuff now, because that's where everyone views stuff, and seeing clips of a new track on there is, the reach is just massive and so easy to
yeah,
do. And then obviously you've got Spotify with streaming. So those two have become so important. Also, obviously radio has always been important, but there's even more radio shows and stuff like, and especially in lockdown, radio shows have been even more, because people have so much free time where they are at home on a Friday night listening to the radio, like, where a lot of the time, not that they wouldn't, but everyone's out and doing stuff. So
but with streaming, like, do you think streaming might overtake radio, like essential mixes and that, like to the point where BBC just might just upload it to like Spotify and Apple Music and that kind of shit?
I think it's just, I think they're going to have to, that they're going to have to be both there together, because at the end of
Yeah,
the day, it's not going to, they're still going to have radio. It's not like radio that's ever going to end.
yeah,
But I mean, that there definitely are, like, for instance, there's a lot of times where if your track is played before release date, so normally maybe you would have, like, you would pitch for a week exclusive on Radio One.
yeah,
There's a lot of labels or distribution companies now that if Spotify will be like, if it gets played anywhere before the day before, I think it's like the window is 24 hours before release date. Any time before that, then Spotify, the in-house playlist, they just won't cover the track, because they want that exclusive themselves.
yeah,
So that's where it's kind of blurred the barriers of Spotify and radio, and you just have to be a bit more precise with how you do stuff. So a lot of stuff is generally PR'd now after, on release date and afterwards,
yeah,
whereas before
yeah,
we used to do a lot more pre stuff as well. So yeah, that's purely just because of Spotify, because Spotify obviously have now said they won't support. So yeah, so the parameters of PR has definitely changed already in the last year because of that. So yeah, I mean, to say what I think is going to happen in the future, I mean, I think there's going to be new things that happen. I agree with you with podcasts. I think that they definitely
yeah.
will have a higher value. And then yeah, we just don't even know, like, where we're even coming out of the pandemic, like how things are going to change for the event side. So I mean, I'm kind of watching just like everyone else, seeing how it
Just
starts off. I know
like
we're just watching Miami and seeing that they act as if nothing's changed.
nothing happened, bro. And
If
like
everything's like Miami in 6 months' time, then we'll probably just be going back to a normal world
no, and it's crazy
with the odd
that
mask.
like, dude, especially in this time that Ricardo's making like Ricardo Villalobos is gonna make his debut in space, and it took a fucking pandemic for the man to play in
Yeah,
like in space, because like you could have put him in the close in, you know, with all the
of
crew,
course.
and it would just being like hella lit,
It's
like, you
it's
know,
mad that it's mad that he's never played there though.
exactly. And he hasn't played in Peru for like, oof, I don't know, like 10 years, 9 years.
Yeah,
It's been a
which
fucking
when you
while.
think of obviously where he's from, like you think that Peru would be a lot more common.
Yeah, but it's just
Maybe he's got his little bucket list now and he's remembering where he hasn't been.
yeah.
He's got
I
a
mean,
bit of a clear head.
hopefully, like if Ricardo or anyone on his team is listening to this, go to Peru, please.
Yeah,
It's
if
gonna
there's
be
any
hella
big
fucking lit.
promoters in Peru listening to
Oh,
this,
there
then
is.
book Ricardo in.
They're fucking
Even
is.
I'll pop over to Peru for
Oh,
Ricardo.
bro, 100% for that. And yeah, Pete. I mean, you know, it's I think it's tech. I think it's technology
Yeah,
that's going to change everything, as it has been
because the
doing
whole
it
thing with obviously the
like forever.
NFTs at the moment, and obviously how that's going to kind of flip it and make
Yeah,
it more give artists more power. So again, that's still early days, and it seems to be a lot of the bigger artists. It's easier for them. If you're still quite a small underground artist, it's not like you can suddenly have a release and then sell that, and it's going to get the values
yeah,
the money that obviously the bigger artists are getting. So I still think that balance, it doesn't sound like, but again, it's early days, so I'm waiting to see some more smaller artists do it and see whether it changes for that. But
and look, it's cool. I think that for any small artist that's out there, not small, but you know, like if you're just starting or your music is not getting the place, but you think it's hella lit, um, you know, evaluate PR. It's definitely like a really good option. You know, because at a moment it's like me with the podcast. Like I'm gonna have to reach people, you know, constantly keep on reaching people and
yeah,
do an effort in that. But there's gonna come a time where people are gonna be like, oh shit, you know, like this podcast has a certain level of exposure, and people are gonna come in
yeah.
and
I feel also it's a bit like when you start learning to DJ. Like obviously you're buying all these vinyl. You're not buying all these vinyl because you want to play out here. You're buying all these vinyl because you want to have it anywhere. And you know that
yeah,
more that you practice, you know that one day it might
better you
actually,
are.
you've got a career out of this. So it's like you have to invest to invest in yourself to reap the rewards in the future. That's basically what press is.
Exactly.
You know, you're investing in yourself at the end of the day. You're investing in making you a more of a bigger action, a bigger profile, so that you can actually start doing this more so in the future. So yeah,
Yeah,
who doesn't want to invest in themselves?
exactly. Like, don't view PR as not like view PR as a fucking investment. Like that's gonna translate, and at the same time,
And invest in a good PR as well. Because you
exactly.
invest in PR that's not going to do anything for you, where you can
Oh yeah,
invest in
yeah,
someone that
yeah,
actually has your.
and
So
and
whether
this is
that's me or whether that's
it.
Jukebox or whether it's any PR company, just make sure that it aligns with what you want to do, basically.
And now, you know, yeah, just I think try and find your identity and how you can tell a story to people and who you are. You know, like just from how you're dressing, you know, like what that projects about yourself when you're playing the music you're doing, you know, like yeah, just and see what you want as well, you know, have clear goals and find the right people to help you get to those fucking goals, so you can be so if you want to play in small clubs, fair enough, perfect, no worries. If you want to play in big festivals as well, but you know, get someone like the main man here, Pete, so that he can help you. I can tell from experience, this motherfucker knows what the fuck he's doing with PR.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can tell he's also managing. And yeah, Pete, dude, I want to thank you, obviously,
Yeah,
for
thanks for inviting me. It's
for being here.
It's a pleasure.
It's
Thank you.
it's all up, dude. And yeah, is there anything, you know, well, for anyone who's trying to get in PR or find more about this, I mean, I don't know if the guys will have available spots at Jukebox, but you know, you don't lose
Yeah.
anything to that. And at the same time, yeah, Pete, is there anything you want to tell to the people
No,
at
I
the
mean,
other
just
side?
anyone that's listening, if they want to hit up, if they have a question, or if they have a release, or if they want to talk to me about possible PR, or even just any questions from this kind of chat, just hit me up on pete@jukeboxpr.co.uk, and then yeah, I'll reply to everyone.
All right, then that's it. Pete, it's all fucking love for you, bro. Thank you very much for being here. It's
Pleasure.
been awesome.
Take it easy.
And for everybody, don't forget, it's about the culture. It's about rave culture. Peace. Peace out.
Peace out.